welcome to another episode of BFF. I'm Brendan.
I'm Franco.
And today's topic, the WWE. We're going to talk a little bit about Wrestlemania 2017. It's coming up as of this recording, but by the time this comes out, it may already be over. So we'll just run down a few of the cards that we're most interested in. Franco, I'll start with you. You are a longtime WWE fan. You are the guy who brought me into this world. So I'm going to start off with you. What's one or two, let's do two matches each that we're looking forward to.
I'm really looking forward to the Bray Wyatt-Randy Orton match, if only because it's the first feud in a long time that kind of prescribed to the old school booking mentality, where there was a nice storyline. It was a little on the ridiculous side, but it's still built the right way. And the big reveal of the Randy Orton turn on Bray Wyatt to be a face again was pretty dramatic and well done. So I think that match is going to have a lot of emotion behind it. And I think a lot of times that's what we're missing in WWE now, is there's not enough storyline behind it, not enough build. I mean, what made Steve Austin so great wasn't his wrestling. He was meh. I mean, he was kind of exciting, but every time he had a match, there was a story behind it. Like, there was some build-up. Bret Hart, Steve Austin. Shawn Michaels, Steve Austin. Vince McMahon, Steve Austin. There's a story being told, and that's what, I mean, wrestling really is, right? It's storytellers that kind of perform at the same time. So I'm really interested to see what happens with the storyline with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. And I'm really afraid, however, that there's going to be interference that affects it, and I hope that's not going to happen. I just want to see a pure match.
I think for me, and I don't know where the I'll save my match I'm interested in for the wrong reasons,
Okay.
And I'll give you my match I'm interested in for the right reasons, and that's the Chris Jericho Kevin Owens match. I am super excited about this match because they actually did develop a storyline, much like what you just mentioned. There's some story to this one, so those are always the better WrestleMania matches when you finally can have a big blow off to this big feud. So the feud itself had a little bit of clunky times to it. I think they at first didn't realize how good they would be as a pairing, so they kind of haphazardly threw them together. But then when they did the best friends angle, and then they had Owens finally turn on Jericho in an effort to kind of say, I'm the man, I don't need you in my life anymore. That was cool. Jericho finally gets a little bit of a face run in before he takes some time off. And I'm just looking forward to the match. Part of me doesn't want it to be for the United States Championship, though, because it's just kind of thrown in, especially Owens losing the title to Goldberg and then all of a sudden very quickly just focusing on a United States Championship, even though it is being held by Jericho, so that's the end to it. But I felt that I wish he didn't have the belt. It could just been more of a blood feud and add maybe a stipulation to it, a no DQ or something like that. I think that match, if they add that in this week or next, will make it, in my opinion, a little bit more interesting if they can really just go all out and attack each other. But I would have loved if it had been for the Universal Championship, because I think Jericho deserves another run at the top based on what he gave to the product. He injected a lot of needed entertainment, humor, and just really solid promo work that currently, we can talk more later in this show, Raw and SmackDown are missing a little bit right now.
I agree, and I feel like Jericho is the most consistent and best WrestleMania performance. I mean, he got a great match at a Fandango way back in the day that made Fandango look like a star. I think that's going to be the best match on the card. I think that's going to steal all the excitement and everything else. I do think the story was done well. I think the build-up to the turn was kind of clunky. Like, it was sudden and it kind of needed to be, but there wasn't enough kind of leaning that direction. Like, the one time Jericho kind of stared at the belt, things like that need to be a little more clear. I agree about the U.S. title. I almost would have wanted Goldberg and Lesnar to be the U.S. title and have Jericho and Owens over the Universal, since Owens is a rising star and deserves to be in the spotlight. And the reality is that Goldberg, Jericho, and Lesnar aren't full-time employees. They're all going to be gone. They're not consistent. Whereas Owens is only a wrestler, and this is his only job. And so they probably should have elevated him a little bit more and made him the focus of the pay-per-view, as opposed to two guys that aren't going to be around. And I get the idea of a dream match, but pushing it as the only event is why we're having an issue with youth movement in the WWE.
And what is your second match you're looking forward to?
I mean, I think you touched on it. I think it is the match between Jericho and Owens. I'm a little excited for the Cruiserweight match, if only because I think Neville's a fantastic worker, and I think it's about time they get a big stage. But do they get 10 minutes and it's another throwaway match you get on TV? Or is it a 20-minute match where they have a chance to kind of showcase themselves? I mean, we've seen the Money in the Bank matches in the past really steal the show and provide a lot of entertainment. I think it's that kind of scenario where it can be something that gets a lot of popularity from having time on the show.
The second match that I'm looking forward to for the wrong reasons is Goldberg versus Lesnar because at WrestleMania 20 they had their last match together. It was a terrible match. It's one of the worst WrestleMania matches of all time for a litany of reasons. With two major points being the match itself from a just technical and just for the pure match basics was terrible. Second, everybody knew that both of those guys were leaving, so no one cared about who the winner was, and they put Stone Cold in there, and the only way anybody was happy was at the end when he stunned both guys. And that was really the only thing that people were looking forward to during that match. So now we have Goldberg, who's in his 50s, coming out of retirement. He was supposed to have just done one Survivor Series match. It turned out that he was signed for additional dates afterward when within a minute he just took out Lesnar. Now you have Lesnar versus Goldberg for the Universal title. Owens got dismantled within. If you really want to look at the numbers, it was probably less than 10 seconds because you don't count the distraction. Then the match didn't start, and then Jericho came out, so he gets destroyed. Now he has the title. And I'm curious because I think we all assume, and that's, again, what makes it a very uninteresting match, and I'm, again, interested in the wrong reasons, an uninteresting match because we assume that Lesnar is going to win because it doesn't appear like Goldberg is interested in doing any more additional dates. So I feel like this is almost like a repeat of their WrestleMania 20 match, except for we know Lesnar will stick around, but he never sticks around long enough to have anything matter. And it just sort of degrades, I think, what they're trying to do with the Universal title by putting on two older part-time guys that, once Lesnar wins, are we not going to see him for a month until the next pay-per-view where he defends it? And then they're going to have just be treading water. So overall, it's a disappointing main event to me, but I get why they're doing it because of the names. And I think the philosophy is that WrestleMania is something that people that maybe are more casual fans watch. So they're trying to draw those eyeballs and not the weekly watchers like we are. So what are your thoughts on that? And how do you think it's going to shake out?
Wow, that's a lot of questions you asked in one little sentence. All right, so I'm not overly excited about the match. I feel like it'll be better than the last match they had, only because Goldberg's had time to watch the product, and I think it'll be better. I think Lesnar's more in touch right now. I think we'll see something like 29 suplexes between the two of them. My concern is, one, we already know Lesnar's going to win because that's the nature of the business. He's given Goldberg the rub twice, so now it's time for Lesnar to pick up the win to balance it out. And Lesnar's a pretty arrogant guy. There's no reason to give Goldberg 3 wins in a row. So it's one of those matches that you know how it's going to end no matter what. And that's a little disappointing. And it really depends on the length. I think they can put on a good match for 15 minutes. The problem is they're going to be the headlining match of WrestleMania. So it's going to be a 20-minute plus match. And you said it right. Goldberg's 50. And Lesnar is over 300 pounds. It's not going to be a match where they're going to be that exciting. They're going to have to pace it out. A lot of rest holds, a lot of out-of-the-ring time. So I think they'll go for big spots, and that will drive the match. But, yeah, I'm not excited about it. I might stop watching after the Owens-Jericho match. But, yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't think it bodes well for the future of WWE when Lesnar is the one holding the belt when he's a part-time employee.
I think this match is going less than 5 minutes because there's nothing that indicates that Goldberg can go longer than 5 minutes. We haven't seen anything out of the 3 matches he's been a part of that he can even do this. So I don't think they're going to be like, now give us 20. I think it's going to be a 5-minute match with 15 minutes of entrances, and maybe even within that 5 minutes of an official match time, 2 minutes of actual spots. I think it's going to be exactly what they did at the Royal Rumble minus the outcome. It's going to be Lesnar on top. He'll probably do like 3 F5s and pin him, and then that's it, and then the show's over. And we don't even have an option for a cash in. We don't even have anybody coming back unless they put Finn in there to, after the match, take out Lesnar, which would be pretty fun booking, in my opinion, if they did that. It'd be a hot way to end the show, as opposed to just kind of Lesnar dancing around like we've seen a lot already. So,
Yeah. I mean, I disagree. I think, if nothing else, the WWE is very arrogant, and I think they'll put them out there for 20 minutes. I do think there will be like a half an hour of entrances. But, yeah. We'll agree to disagree here, and we'll see. As this show airs, dear viewers, realize that I was right, and the match went on 25 minutes.
all right, so let's move away from WrestleMania, because again, this will probably be on afterward. But the future of the WWE, and there's already some rumors that they're going to do trades, and I put that in quotes because again, it's all scripted. So it's likely that SmackDown GM Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon will make a trade for somebody to come over from Raw. The name that's being tossed around is Roman Reigns, thinking of getting him off Raw, putting him on SmackDown because John Cena is likely to take some time off. So my thought is that Roman Reigns on SmackDown might actually be good for him because it gets him away from a 3-hour Raw that seems to drag a lot. He's kind of run through everybody on that roster to do a feud with, and it gives him a fresh start. And I think maybe they would let him with a creative team that seems more adept at putting together stories. Maybe let him run a little bit and maybe help him get better as a promo guy and a story guy, because the stories out of SmackDown Live have been really good when you compare them to Raw. So I think that's a good move. I don't know who they bring over. The name that's been rumored is AJ Styles, which I think would be great because that opens up him getting back together with the club, which they should never have separated because they kind of needed each other. Well, Styles didn't need Gallows and Anderson, but Gallows and Anderson definitely needed Styles. And you also have a returning Finn Balor. That's a built-in feud there, too, if they want to go back to both the leaders of the club at one point. And they could certainly do a slow build over the course of a year for that storyline where they're together, then dissension. They could go a bunch of different ways. So I think I agree with both of those rumors. I don't know if you're looking at somebody else that should be drafted and moved and what you thought about that.
Well, let's start with those rumors. I think the change of scenery for Reigns would be really good. I think it only works if they move AJ Styles off of SmackDown. Because if they try to go Reigns versus Styles, it's going to be more of the same where Reigns is booed heavily and Styles is cheered. So I think Reigns works if they move Styles off the brand. And I think the perfect feud for Reigns is Miz versus Reigns. Because The Miz is such a pure heel. He's super annoying. And I think he can work well with Reigns and he can put on a good match. So if they go that direction, it'll be successful. It just depends on how they try to push Reigns. If they try to go the All-American John Cena, everything I say is good route, it's going to fail no matter where they're at. If they let him be a little more edgy, I think it has the possibility to be a good push for him. But I think unless they abandon the idea he's going to be a top star immediately and let him build to that, it's going to fail. As far as AJ Styles, I think that's a perfect move. I think having Styles and Owens on the same roster would be great for a match standpoint when that feud eventually happens. And I think bringing in Balor to kind of offset the whole feud thing with the club would be fantastic. The only thing I'm afraid of is that they don't like referencing other companies' storylines. And that you kind of saw that with the club, with them kind of tongue-in-cheek referencing it, but not fully referencing it. If they go the full route of saying, this happened in a different promotion, here's footage we got from that promotion, and so on and so forth, I think that's going to be the feud of the year. If they kind of do it like the Invasion way, back when they brought WCW in, it's not going to be good, and it's going to be a soft feud. So I think everything depends on, does Triple H have more creative control? Do they go the route of actually letting in more reels and other promotions come through, like they do with Ring of Honor and Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn? Or are they going to go the route of, let's pretend nothing else happened and kind of build our own story? As far as who I'm excited for the trade, I want to see where Nakamura goes. I'm really hoping he goes to SmackDown and becomes SmackDown's big face, and they don't let him kind of languish in the middle ground. My fear is that we had Yoshitatsu way back in the day, who's another very prominent and talented Japanese star, who ended up just being fodder for bigger wrestlers. And I don't want that to happen to Nakamura, because I think he's probably the best performer they have in the promotion overall, and he's not young, so we don't have time to kind of let him languish. He needs to be top right now.
I'd agree. I mean, I'm looking forward to Nakamura coming on. I think that's happening definitely after WrestleMania because they're advertising another UK tour for NXT, and he's not on the poster. Neither is Asuka, who actually was performing with the SmackDown roster at Madison Square Garden as an unannounced match. So I think they're testing the market for her and getting her ready for her big move. And speaking of NXT moves. I think when you take away Asuka, you take away Nakamura, which is happening. There's some interesting folks that are still down there, but their women's division in particular is going to hurt big time with Asuka gone. It already hurt a lot when Bayley left. It, my thinking, and feel free to correct me if you think I'm wrong. I feel like NXT worked in the beginning because of the talent that was there and the people that were there, and now you're kind of seeing what happens when you graduate that talent and you're back to what is and has always been a developmental territory. And it's developmental, and I think the expectations are so high for some of the performers that the concept of they're still learning and this is meant to work with them and learn gets lost sometimes. Because I haven't watched NXT in a while because I'm not as interested in it as I was when it was Owens, Sami Zayn, Bayley, Charlotte, when that group was there. But that group benefited from almost 2 years of televised time that no one really watched because it was either a smaller issue for WWE or just not on your TV. But now that the network allows you to watch this and millions of people have access to it, how do you think they deal with that? Because they have been able to kind of pepper in people like Bobby Roode. They've had Cassius Ohno come back.
Yeah.
They can probably still do that. But what do you think the future of NXT looks like? Does it stay as is, or do they pull back a little bit?
I think they're going to pull back a little bit. I think they're always going to have to maintain the model of bringing in the best independent workers. I think we're going to see a lot of spending go that direction. So you might eventually see a Hardy Boys in NXT for a while, or Young Bucks. But unless they're able to bring in the constant influx of big names from outside, I think we're going to see the focus from NXT kind of slip away. I mean, we've already kind of seen with the Cruiserweight Challenge, the 205 Live. When it first started in 205, like the Cruiserweight Challenge was super successful, got a lot of attention, got a lot of promotion on TV, and the idea worked. But as you transition to 205 Live, where you kind of try to add storylines, something there's a tournament, the interest goes down, and then promotion goes down, and it's a cycle where it just keeps going downward. And I'm worried that it's going to kind of be one of those things that's pushed to the back. And we'll have an FCW or OVW situation where it's kind of aired, but it's not really a focus. And they'll lose kind of the developmental influx from that. And that will kind of lead us to the situation we're in now where it's older stars taking spots for younger stars.
I agree with you. I think it's definitely going to be difficult and interesting, and we'll have to see where that goes. So I think to wrap up, because we're quickly getting to the end of another beautiful episode.
Yeah.
Do you see the WWE continuing to rely on part-timers, or is there going to be a point where that's no longer applicable? Because Lesnar maybe has a year or two left. Goldberg, they can't trot him out anymore. All the stars from the Attitude Era and from WCW's heyday or most of them are too old or retired to even participate. So there's going to come a point where they can't do this anymore. And I think, there's only so many times you can call up The Rock and say, can you please show up to WrestleMania? I don't see it. I think they kind of dug themselves a hole. But how long do you think it'll be before they drop this, bringing in part-timer deal, and then trying to, what they did back in the day, actually build up people like an Austin, like a Rock, that people are interested in just seeing and can actually deliver on matches?
I mean, sub-question, is Vince retired or dead? Because I think...
Good question. Dark sub-question,
I mean,
appropriate.
If we're being honest, it's the Al Davis effect on the Raiders, right? If
Yeah.
Al Davis is still in the building, they're going to draft the guy with the fastest 40. If Vince is still in the building, they're going to rely on stars that he built in his yesteryear and bring them through. I think as long as any of those retired guys have a pulse, the check will be there. They'll show up because it's addicting to be in front of that kind of crowd. It's not addiction. A lot of guys are going to give up. I think the more Triple H or Paul Levesque, as they call him professionally, takes control of the company, the more we'll see the youth movement. I think the transition's just going to be 4 or 5 years away. But I do think the company can survive for the next 4 or 5 years, bringing up guys like Booker T, who we'll see in the ring. I'm sure we'll see Shawn Michaels one more time, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think in the next 5 years we'll make that transition. It just depends if Vince is going to be around still, or if he passes away, or gives the full control to somebody else.
All right, well, we are at the end of another beautiful BFF episode, my friend, and we will be back next week talking more pop culture, sports, wrestling, whatever you'd like to talk about, my friend, is what we will discuss. So, I'm Brendan.
I'm Franco.
Have a good night.
Peace.